Welcome to GE13, the Showdown. Today's focus, women voters. I'm June Wong, and with me today in the studio is Hani Tan, a lawyer and long-time activist in women's rights and gender equality. Welcome to our studio, Hani.
Thank you, June.
Let's start with some interesting statistics.
Sure.
We were told that 62% of our undergraduates are women, almost half our judges are women, and perhaps very significantly for GE13, at least 50% of our voters are women. What does it mean? What do these statistics tell us, or what to expect for GE13?
I think these statistics are actually welcome news, but as usual, statistics only tell like half the story. So if we take the stats of like 62% of women are undergraduates in Malaysia, I think the more interesting question to ask is, so what happened to these women after they leave the universities and the colleges? Because if you look at the reports, say for example by the Asia Pacific Human Development report, they say that actually in Malaysia only like 46.1% of women remain in the workforce, and this is actually lower than the global average of 53%, and it's even lower still if you compare it to the East Asia statistics of 61% of women in the workforce. So you're meant to actually accelerate what we call de facto equality between women and men, and de facto means actual equality.
I see.
So we need formal equality in the sense of having it in our laws. So in the Constitution, you will have Article 8.2 that says you cannot discriminate on the grounds of gender. Then you have all these sorts of policies coming out and all that. But having an articulation of an intention and a law and a policy is maybe like 1/3 of the job. I would say 70% of the job is actually implementing it. And I think this is kind of like where we're stuck.
I see.
Yeah.
Are those reasons why we have quite low representation in Parliament? Out of 222 MPs, only 22 are women.
Yeah, if you think that's scary, it's actually more scary when you look at the state assembly persons, because the number of women representation there is even lower. But I think that is part of the fact that the government is not focusing on getting more women candidates. Because if you just take a look at how women participate in the political process, they tend to be more in the supporting role, not the main star. So you don't see like them coming out. If you think of it as like a movie, they're not out there when the credit rolls. You know, they're kind of like down there. So I think that we must look at a way to just bring women up to be candidates.
Are the politicians on both sides of the divide, are they aware that they need to do more for women in terms of as voters and putting up women candidates?
I think somewhere up here, they have that idea. But again, it's like you're talking, but you're not doing. So I've actually asked two prominent leaders of both the coalitions, and I've asked them, so what steps have you put in place in your respective coalitions to ensure that there will be more women candidates this time round? And the answer essentially is they actually have no plan. There must be a concerted effort, because you must set an objective, your goals, and how you're going to implement it. I mean, it's been like 4 years, 5 years, you know, so plenty of time to have done something about it.
I see. Let's hold that thought and we'll take a short break. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. With me is Hani Tan, and we're talking about women's participation in politics and GE13. Now, Hani, you were saying that you spoke to coalition leaders and they were not terribly impressive when it came to finding ways to have more women as candidates.
Well, that's true, but I mean, I have to compliment them for at least being honest enough to acknowledge the fact that both coalitions don't have like a proper plan to ensure that women are given good seats in the event they become candidates, and actually to have more candidates as who are women. Because there's still, I think, a lot of difficulties in perceiving women as leaders. I think that is part of our cultural issues that we have to overcome.
Can politicians on both sides of the divide, can they ignore women voters?
I'm going to say something which is, I'm probably going to get shot for saying this, but I think yes, they can, and they do. And you can see that because what they say and what they do don't match. So they say, oh yes, women are so important, we're doing all this for women. But these are superficial things, you know, they're not structural things that make a big change in the lives of women. Say, for example, when we amended the constitution to put in gender as another prohibited ground for discrimination, that changed women's life structurally. But the other things, you know, don't really matter that much. So if the government were to want to do something important for the next session, what they should do is look at amending the federal constitution to ensure that men and women both automatically can pass on their citizenship rights to the children.
So there's the one wish, if you had just one wish for the new parliament?
I think that will make a big difference to a lot of women, because in our globalized world, there are like a lot of you know, countries, inter-countries kind of like marriages between men and women, you know. So and that's really important. Because otherwise, women have to ensure that if they were to marry a foreigner, they have to come back to Malaysia and deliver the child. Whereas a Malaysian man who marries a foreigner can have his child anywhere in the world, and the child will automatically become a citizen. That's surely very unfair.
So on that note, thank you so much, Hani. It's been very enlightening and very enjoyable to discuss this very important topic of women voters and GE13. So until the next time, this is June Wong. Thank you for spending time with us. Goodbye.